Dreams curdle into nightmares in Yunnan and Olivia. The episode starts out so sweetly with a flashback to when Marcy first saw Newtopia sprawling out before her in all its shining brilliance, a glamorous and luxurious white city. The balcony of the palace is a magnificent place, and Olivia talks to her about having felt a similar rush of excitement and wonder the first time her mother took her out on that balcony. Now, Marcy's reaction is a little bit less dignified than Olivia's was, but Marcy's passion and enthusiasm for Newtopia, the city she just happened to stumble into after arriving in Amphibia, is earnest and unquestionable. The show then flashes to the present, and we realize that we were not in Marcy's head. Rather, we were in Lady Olivia's head as she was wistfully thinking back on these early days with Marcy and on her own mother's advice, in contrast to the environmental degradation she now witnesses, with Andreas exploiting the natural land of Amphibia to fuel his warmongering. She yearns to be true to her mother's vision of Amphibia and Newtopia as bright and shining beacons for the future. She yearns to stop Andreas. The rest of the episode demonstrates quite brutally and horrifically how tenuous and fickle those dreams of a brighter tomorrow can really be. The centerpiece of the episode, which is sadly only 11 minutes long but packs a lot into those 11 minutes, is a series of illusions that Yunnan, Olivia, and Marcy encounter in the basement after Yunnan and Olivia have rescued Marcy. The three see their greatest fears. Yunnan sees a grub hog, which might seem like a kind of silly and jokey fear for her to have, considering she is this fearsome, relentless warrior. But having this be her fear is not just a joke. It is a joke, but it's more than that. As Yunan's constant boasts about her prowess and her status demonstrate, she is a proud, even arrogant individual, and her view of herself, her belief in herself, is quite tied to her view of herself as this powerful, formidable warrior. Her military prowess is not separable from her identity. To accept that she is afraid of a mere grub hog is to subtly undermine that identity. To accept that she can be flawed in that regard, that she can be afraid of something that poses no real threat, means she cannot separate herself from the ordinary folk as this fearless, unstoppable warrior. She's vulnerable, just like everyone else. Now, Lady Olivia's fear is more viscerally disquieting. Lady Olivia's mother entrusted her with the mission to protect and preserve the heritage of Newtopia, to really uphold the ideals of this realm as a place for learning, as a place for progress, as a place for peace and prosperity. That Olivia now sees the land she once loved reduced to a barren, desolate wasteland makes her feel like she has failed her mother. She is a person that always feels like she has a large burden on her shoulders. She places on herself a lot of responsibility, even beyond what is merely expected of her. She has internalized the role she serves in Amphibia. It is not just something she does in upholding these traditions and customs and keeping the realm working properly. It is a part of who she is. And we see how that is connected with her family, with her lost mother. So Olivia feels like she failed her mother, and even though she knows it's not necessarily her fault that Andreas is exploiting the land and its people like this, she wonders if she could have done more to stop him. This is what impels her to want to save Marcy, much more so than any personal love for Marcy. I'm sure she does care about Marcy, and she seems to care much more about Marcy than Yunnan does, but Olivia's first and most important desire is to protect and uphold the realm against maniacal despots like Andreas. Still, even though I care for Yunan and Olivia, there is a limit to how bad one can feel for them, considering how little attention the show has paid to them thus far. They are not major characters in this show. We've only seen them in supporting roles. Marcy is different. When Marcy sees a fusion, a horrific hybrid of her friends Anne and Sasha, shaming her for her past actions and decisions, that is dramatically affecting and devastating because it strikes right at the core of Marcy's greatest weaknesses, her greatest fears, and her greatest feelings of vulnerability that we have seen time and time again throughout all the time we've spent with Marcy. Marcy's greatest fear is being alone, as she articulates so poignantly in True Colors. And because of this, she tries very hard to keep her friendships with Sasha and Anne intact, even if that means suppressing her own feelings and her own opinions. Those don't matter as much as not aggravating Anne and Sasha, because she's afraid that if she does upset them, they will leave her. Think, for instance, of her behavior in Battle of the Bands and The Dinner, in which she steadfastly refuses to pick a side between Anne and Sasha and desperately tries to play the peacemaker. And this complete unwillingness to start confrontations is what leads to her not saying anything about her desire to stay in Amphibia until it's too late. She hopes Andreas will convince her friends, and when Andreas turns on her, she's left with no one. And she's left feeling like she's completely disappointed and hurt her friends. The projection of these two friends in a eerie hybrid form, shaming her and chastising her, is a manifestation of Marcy's greatest fears and her greatest anxieties. It's everything she does not want, so it's of course what she sees in these projections. But of course, the projections can be defeated, and Yunan, Marcy, and Olivia do disable these projections by the conclusion of the episode. Marcy hopes this means she'll finally be free, but their escape attempt was just an elaborate fantasy. Andreas was watching them the entire time, knowing that they are not really a threat to him and his grand megalomaniacal plans. He allowed them to indulge in their idealistic fantasies while knowing very well that he'll be able to stop them before they get too far. The scene wherein Andreas plugs Marcy into the core is one of the most gruesome scenes in the entire show. Her entire personality, her entire identity is overridden with this dark knowledge. Her body and mind are hijacked. Marcy lets out a gruesome, spine-chilling scream, conveyed with perfect, devastating clarity by Haley Ju, Marcy's voice actress. Marcy's spine cracks and swerves. At the very moment when the core, Andreas' master, finally attaches to Marcy, the camera cuts away to a silhouette of Marcy. But this is not to lessen the horror, it's to increase it. What we see on the screen becomes stylized, just a black silhouette against a bright red crimson background, not dissimilar to what we see at the end of Reunion, the first season finale. Her body writhes. I'm not sure necessarily if this is a more unsettling episode than True Colors, but they are unsettling in different ways. True Colors was tragedy. This is horror. What is as chilling as the visceral depiction of Marcy's possession and the ultimate failure of this rescue attempt was that the failure was inevitable. The chemistry between Yunan and Olivia, Marcy's wit and her ingenuity, none of it mattered. Whether they deactivated the illusions trapping them had no bearing whatsoever on their ultimate fate. Andreas had every step planned out. The fate of Marcy, Yunan, and Olivia was already predetermined. The escape was doomed before it even started. There are some nightmares that you can't wake up from. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. I'm sorry I am a bit late getting this up. This was the first episode in Season 3 that I felt it was absolutely essential to discuss. So, I'm kind of disappointed that I was not able to discuss it until today. But, oh well. Sometimes fate has strange things in mind for us. I had a very uncomfortable last 2 days. Let's just say that. A pleasant trek into Providence, Rhode Island turned into a phantasmagorical, ghoulish hike for miles in the freezing rain with a sprained ankle. So I hope you'll forgive me that this video is coming out a little late. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.